Hi, people. Gen Xer here. Got an article from The Intercept. It's called Right Wing Media Look at Parkland Student Activists and See a Reason to Gut Public Education. It's from Rachel Cohen. Witnessing with horror a parade of articulate and smart teenagers speaking confidently about the role of intersectionality in the social movement they ignited, conservative leaders have seized on the explosion of activism launched by Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School students to make the case that so-called government schools or traditional public schools are a fundamental threat to their vision of the country. David Hogg and Emma Gonzalez are all the evidence they need. The radical progressive agenda is now basic propaganda in our school system, said Mark Levine. It's a right-wing hack, a prominent right-wing radio host on his show in March. These government schools have become propaganda mills, whether it's genitalia, assignment, bathrooms, and gyms, which we're talking about, transgender people, and gyms, whether it's a school lunch program that's even politicized, radical environmental, that's advanced capitalism is trashed, which is bullshit. But anyway, Levine, who is learned hard to into his Levine, who leaned hard into his message that the purpose of public education is to indoctrinate students, insisted that public schools have been taken over by liberals and their unions. Whether it's the school lunch in the cafeteria, they see different plays and musicals that take place, history class, social studies, current events. They push the agenda of the progressives and the Democratic Party. Like, who's going to be pushing their right-wing nonsense anyway in schools? What, so you can privatize everything and pay people $12 an hour and teach your kids history and science, But anyway, following the national student walkouts for gun control, United States parents involved in education, a right-wing education activist group, released a statement also blaming the public school curriculum. Government K-12 students are teaching politically biased social justice values, which they're exactly what they're pushing is politically biased values. Students are taught the faults of America, Christianity, Western civilization, and white men. Sadly, children are not being taught accurate history of the United States and the reasons for American exceptionalism. They're not being taught the historic facts about the hundreds of millions of unarmed people of all the races murdered by their own governments in the 20th century. Lack of historical context leads students to believe that the only way they could be safe in their schools is to further restrict or take away guns from law-abiding Americans. Children deserve better. Until policymakers implement proven school safety strategies and until schools stop teaching politically biased social and justice values, the only way parents can raise children safely will be to be well-educated American citizens to teach at home or be at private schools. Well, no shit, Sherlock, because they're being paid off by freaking private schools. The charter schools are lobbying them. So it's not like they really care about the curriculum, and they actually do kind of care about the curriculum because they want Americans to be undereducated and not be aware of anything that's going on. So they like an uneducated population. But anyway, I'll continue. Just days after the Parkland shooting, right-wing radio show Rush Limbaugh went so far as to say that such tragedies only occur in public schools, not private or religious schools. Totally unfounded. That is an incapable observation, he said. It's true. A caller on his show offered this way of explanation. I mean, there's almost no rules in the public schools. Ted Nugent, another nut job, National Rifle Association board member, said last week on the radio that schools and the media are brainwashing students. Like, they don't want to brainwash people. But the lies from the poor, mushy-brained children who have been fed lies and parrot lies. I really feel sorry for them, said Nugent. It's not only ignorant and dangerously stupid, it's soulless. I'm afraid to say, it hurts me to say this, but the evidence is irrefutable. They have no soul. This guy would go away. Such an idiot. All these guys, like they wouldn't be indoctrinating people themselves, But anyway, commendation of public schools for their ability to create such dangerous figures as the Parkland students come at a time when conservatives are more broadly gravitating toward an increased support for charter schools, which undercut liberal teacher unions. It gives school more freedom over the curriculum. They always say freedom and buzzwords like all the innovations of the 21st century and same nonsense. But anyway, the lines between church and state and charter schools are also more complicated, in some cases blurrier than the traditional schools. In a post published last month on the website for the Heartland Institute, a right-wing think tank, the author spoke favorably about the religious schools and charters, writing, "It's obvious that the traditional government school system is broken." Public opinion polling released over the past year reinforces this idea of a growing partisan divide for charter schools. Paul Peterson, director of Harvard's Program on Education Policy and Governance, wrote recently, as late as 2010, members of the two parties did not differ significantly in their opinions about charters. But by 2015, a 20-point gap had opened up, and now it has grown to 30% points. 75% of Republicans, but only 45% of Democrats support charter schools. A Gallup survey released in August found on Democratic support for charter schools standing at 48%, down from 61% in 2012. Why were they even 61% at that one point anyway? But it's beyond me. It's supposedly Democrats too, but either way, it's down to 48%. Republican support had held steady at 62%. A different national online survey released last month by the University of Southern California shows charter support jumping by 14 percentage points among self-identified Republicans, with no change in support from Democrats. A lot of this stuff has to do with the mainstream media too. So, they're pushing this stuff down our throats too. But anyway, I'll continue. Far-right conservative attempts to weaken support for public education did not begin with the Parkland massacre. Many advocates for private and religious schools have long framed public schools as dangerous secular institutions. Well, heaven forbid they separate church and state, Even this past summer, a young listener called to the Rush Limbaugh show to ask why it seems like liberalism has taken over all aspects of public education. Limbaugh responded, "Whenever there's a communist invasion of our revolution, the news outlets are the first thing seized, and then the schools, and then healthcare." What is he talking about? How the hell does this guy even have, people watching him or listening to him across the country? A lot of most of it's from the Republicans and Bill Clinton with the Telecommunications Act in 1996, but I don't know how anybody could believe this shit without having their brain ooze through their nose. Anyway, calling them communists now. So leftists make it an objective to control education because that's how they control minds. That's how they control countries. That's how they control populations. Yeah, heaven forbid we want single payer and publicly funded college tuition and trade school and living wage and Medicare for all and ending the wars. Heaven forbid these horrible socialist leftists. But anyway. Ken Shack, Dean of Students at Wellsprings Friends School in Eugene, Oregon, joined students from the alternative high school in front of a nearby church Churchill High School for a moment of silence in protest of gun violence on March 14th. But the Parkland students' effort had been catalyzed a renewed sense of outrage among conservatives who see students walking out of schools to protest guns, some without consequences, irrefutable proof of public education's liberal bias. Oh yeah, just because they're pissed off because they're scared about having somebody come in there and shoot up 30 or 40 of their own students at a time. So anyway, as a former high school teacher, I'm shocked at the scope of political indoctrination and partisan manipulation now taking place in middle and high school classrooms, wrote Tom Terracino, a former Republican Colorado congressman, following the walkouts. But breakdown in standards goes beyond the open partisanship of classroom teachers promoting walkouts. School administrators, too, participated in the crusades. How else to taxpayer-funded transportation to partisan rallies off the campus? How else to explain reports of students being punished for not walking out of class and teachers being disciplined for questioning the educational character of the event? But anyway, you see how they're using this to frame for gutting more education, putting more money into charter schools, mostly because they're being lobbied by charter school interests. There's no data to support that there's any kind of better education in private schools than in public schools. If anything, it could be actually more in the opposite, but there is absolutely no data at all to support that theory whatsoever. They're going full bore stupid now. Basically, this is their answer to, what's going on from the right wing, which is the exact wrong message to take. But charter school teachers, they make less money, less benefits. That's what it's all about. So it's capitalism for you when it's unchecked, for sure. I'm for a mixed economy, so I think we should have balance of socialism and capitalism, both, just like Europe. But it's an interesting article, like I said. Yeah, the right-wing ignorants are on the march again, as you can see. But got to get out and vote, man. Just make sure platform over platitudes. I mean, I saw a T-shirt from Mike Figueredo the other day. I liked it. I really liked the shirt, though. It said platitudes over, platform over platitudes. So, it's a no-brainer. I mean, we have to do some kind of measures to, circumvent the violence. But them obviously saying that we need to gut education is just, they do that on everything. I mean, they always screw up everything. They cut education. They cut funding to all these different government agencies, and then they say, well, yeah, look, it doesn't work. See, so that means government's bad, so we need to just abolish and get rid of the whole thing. I mean, it's like their argument for everything, which, I mean, they're the ones that usually end up making government not work for the people, as well as some of the neoliberals, too, but that are also bought off. I mean, I haven't seen really much of anybody on the so-called left, that, neo-left, that's stood up for unions. That's why they're talking about starting their own party. So, the unions. So, I actually think they should, but they really don't get any representation. They're at least a good special interest, which would be, the unions would be at least for labor. It's not like the oil and gas industry. It's not the same thing. But anyway, it's a terrific article. If you like it, just thumb it up. I think it's absolutely disgusting what they're doing, but tell me what you think below. Hit the bell, make sure you're subscribed, and guess we'll till then, march on. Take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks.